Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fourth Tier Fever. I hope you all are doing well. If you ask me, I'll be honest, I could be doing better. But we'll get on to that. I'm in the bluntest way possible. Normally, I just come on saying that I'll do like some sort of like head bop or something, or to maybe crack like a little bit of a joke beforehand. Not this week. More of a serious face if you're watching us on YouTube, and a bit more of a serious tone if you're listening to it on the streaming platforms. But I'm not alone. We've got a full cast this week. For the first time in quite a bit, we are joined by Luke, Jake, and the return of Keiron. It's been a few weeks. So yeah, welcome lads. How are we?
Football's back. It's great. Everything is fantastic. We're having a great time. This is great fun.
Nice one.
Yeah, in the words of Eric Cantona, I love football. It's all fantastic. It's all good. We will talk about this very minimally off air. I was gutted that I missed last week because I was like, "Oh, are we going to win again the following week?" And we did. So I'm here to be able to talk about another Newport win. Get in.
Yeah, you're not wrong, Jake. Back again after last week. The fresh of the highs of finally seeing a Salford City goal. How are you?
We finally scored, and it took a deflection, and it was probably one of the worst goals, but I don't care. We finally scored, and we finally got a point.
Good stuff. We'll get straight into it. We're going to start with our game. I just want to get it out of the way. The quicker we can, the quicker I can look to the other games. The more exciting games, and talk a little bit more about that. So, Thursday night, Notts County Grimsby. Fuck knows why it was a Thursday. It was an awful day to put it. It's ruined. I'm kicking off at Sky to start with. Funnily enough, awful. It just separates from. It's shit for Thursday because it's just separated from the rest of the games. Like, we know that football, for our level, it's Saturday's the main day for it. The thing is, if it was maybe a Friday night, I could understand it a bit more, but because it just feels like a little bit more of a football night. But Thursday, it feels a bit disjointed from the rest of the fixtures, and it's ruined the opportunity of probably it's our favourite away day on a Saturday. We probably would have taken about 3,000, and I'm not even taking the mick. I mean, I think it was about 1,500. It's just still a bloody brilliant effort, but it's just ruined. It's just more of a televised, for fans watching on the telly first, and less thoughts about the much going fans, which I thought was awful, to be honest. I didn't like it at all. No trains home as well, so I had to spend a night in Notts, but we'll get to that shortly. The game. Oh, fucking hell, where do I start? I think we should probably, we'll just go through it one by one. In fact, we'll just talk about the 4 goals for Notts County's end. It's probably going to sound a bit bitter, but I don't really care. The first goal is offside. Don't know how it's tight, but it's offside. I got a really good view of that. The second one's inexcusable. Crowley's caught it. If he was a goalkeeper, we'd be talking about how much of a great catch it was. I don't know. Literally everyone in the ground has seen that, other than the incompetent bastard with a whistle. We should have had a penalty. I think you should. I think people have their own thoughts on that. It does maybe look like Callum Ainley has gone down a little bit soft. He did make a bit of a meal of that, but I stand by that. Anywhere else on the pitch, it's a foul. So for me, it's the same. It's a penalty for me. The third goal's a fluke. if I'm gonna be honest, we've let Jody Jones cut in, and it's a clear cross, and it's found the corner. It's hit the post, and their fourth goal's a deflection, in which we don't clear it enough. We just don't deal with it well enough. I'll be honest, I missed our goal. I was too mardy to care at that point. But it does sound selfish, but I should probably emphasise that Notts County do deserve to win. Had Dan Crowley and Jody Jones absolutely rang rings round us all night. Dan Crowley was like the next coming of Messi from that performance. But as much as I may be disappointed about the referee, in which the standard of the referee is a joke. It's a joke in any league. It's a joke lower down in the pyramid, and it's not going to change as long as we've still got firemen, bloody architects, milkmen, in charge, it's not going to change because it's, they're not good at their jobs. It's as simple as that. There's not enough attention to it, and the game's gone in 15 minutes for two decisions that have gone against us badly. Dave Artell apparently said after the game, he spoke to the referee, he spoke to the linesman for the first goal. So he can maybe understand the offside a little bit because you win some, you lose some. But apparently the linesman said, I don't see that far. Why the fuck is he a linesman then? How is he if you can't even see, it's in the centre of the pitch. How you can't see that? He's in the wrong profession. I'm sorry, but no, I don't know. I've held this in for so long for this week. Because obviously the game on Thursday, it pisses me off thinking about it. But yeah, as much as I can blame the referee all I want, it did ruin what paper it could be a good game. I'm more disappointed in our performance. We knew what Notts County were going to be like. I watched their game against Fleetwood on Sunday. It gave us a good picture. We did not deal with them at all. We knew what their threats were going to be. The defence, we can maybe talk about the offside, but we've got to get closer for the first. We've got to get closer to Crowley for the deflected goal. And Jones got nowhere near all night. The midfield was a joke. Absolutely ran rings round through us. Not for the first time that we've been talking about the midfield. We've been missing that bite for quite a while with Thompson being out. And yeah, we didn't look like scoring. As much as I say that, credit to Notts County. They honestly deserved it. They absolutely battered us. And they deserved the 3 points in which, their first win of the season. Not many teams will go to Notts County and pick up a result there this year. I can guarantee that they do look much more organised than they were last year, and they've still got that quality even without Langstaff. Jatta caused us no end of problems as well. But yeah, bitterly disappointing. And Jordan Davis went off injured, which only made things even more depressing. But quickly before we move on, went out in Notts that night. No trains home, so I was going to stay at a mate's house. Ended up staying at my mate's hotel because we went out. We went to, we went to Spoons, but we went to. I'm ashamed to say this in a place that's got Rock City in it, but my mates were adamant we go to Pop World, and you can probably imagine it on a Thursday night. There was about 30 people. It was dull as dishwater, and to be quite honest, I didn't drink enough to enjoy it, and that was my first experience ever setting foot in the Pop World, and quite frankly, never again. Which rounded off a pretty shit night of football, a pretty shit night in general. But yeah, that's all I've got to say on that. Just quickly before we move on. I'm assuming, did any of you watch it? It was on Sky Sports, of course it was. Embarrassed in national telly. I forgot about that bit as well. There we go. Did any of you just quickly watch it? Please tell me that anyone agrees with some of the stuff I said there, because Jesus Christ.
I only saw the highlights, but the three big decisions in the game did go against you, which you can feel hard done by in that sense. But at the same time, you've been out-possessioned by a more complete possession side. They are further along in that process. It shouldn't be too much of a shock to see them coming out with a win in that fixture. Like I said, they've been playing that way for a while now. You're still transitioning into it, and it will take time. But in the meantime, we'll try not to laugh too much at your misery.
No, do it. We've got all season to this. Yeah, but no, I agree. This is a side that's had the foundations to be playing this sort of football for the past 3 years. We've only really started this year. It's going to take a lot of time. There's going to be so many it's going to be an inconsistent season, is what I've seen early doors. I've seen some good stuff, and I've seen some deeply concerning stuff. But Notts County just looked much more well drilled under Stuart Maynard. It has to be said. And yeah, they fully deserve the victory. As much as I'm sort of going on a little bit, we'll probably move on from that shit show. Yeah, we will. I can go away. In fact, no. Actually, before we do, next couple of games. We've got Sheffield Wednesday Cup in a week. To be honest, I don't really care. It's probably come at a wrong time, that one, because I want to get straight back to the league. But the next two games, we've got Bradford, who have started really well, and then we've got Chesterfield. It could easily be, after the first 5, we could have easily won 1 draw and lost 4. And I'm dreading that. We never beat Bradford and Chesterfield. Look, look all right at the minute. We'll go on to Chesterfield now. Actually, we know that we played Salford yesterday, 1-1 draw. There's another goal for James Berry in that one. Someone that I've been really impressed with to start with, and then Salford did equalise with their first goal of the season. From the name, it escapes me, but I'm sure Jake will put that after Curtis Tilt got sent off in quite interesting circumstances. It has to be said. But Jake, you were at the game. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, the red card was just the most stupid thing I've probably ever seen, because he got booked for asking a question after they just scored. Carl Robinson said it wasn't anything bad, he just asked a question and the referee booked him. Then from the kickoff, it looks like Will Griggs ran into him and he's just been sent off, which Curtis Tilt's done that for every single game he's played for us. Just got close to the striker and Will Griggs just used his experience and got him sent off, which just didn't make much sense. But to be fair, after that, we didn't go defensive. We really went for it and tried to get that first goal, and we did. Came as a bit of a surprise because it was just a little bit of quality in Kelly and Mai, who wasn't even in the squad until 5 minutes before kickoff when Matty Lund pulled out with an illness. So such a crazy game, but we finally actually got a point and the first goal.
How important? All right, it brings me to this question: how important is it to? I mean, for you, you've obviously not had the best of starts to the season. I think now you've sort of got that monkey off the back a little bit with that first goal and that first point. Oh no, you got a point in Bradford, didn't you? But that first goal, like, sort of, how much of a little bit of a monkey off the back is that? That knowing that, you know, this team that maybe can score goals. And was there any sort of encouragement maybe that you know that can change? You can maybe score more in next few games.
Yeah, it was encouraging because we created a lot of chances. We went through early on with Conor McLennan, and I still don't know how we didn't even get on target. But it's just keeping that confidence and going forward, because we just seem to panic when we get forward and everything's just rushed. And we had a number of chances on the counter, but every time we'd mess it up at the end, which was disappointing. But we just got to build off it because we've had probably the hardest start. And then we've got MK Dons next, which won't be easy. Obviously, they've just won, so Luke will be very happy. So after that, we have a nice break before some easier fixtures, which would be good for us.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear. Keiron, we'll come to you. Chesterfield, it seems like they've settled into life back in League Two pretty well. Not the best, but it's certainly pretty decent. I mean, a really good win at Crewe at that, and 2 draws. Another goal for James Berry. Really nice finish, it has to be said. Early days, of course, but yeah, what have you made of the Spy so far?
You've got to credit them, haven't you? You know, it's not easy to jump from National League to League Two, and we talked about in the I don't know whether it was actually a podcast we did or whether it was off air, but we mentioned that Chesterfield potentially had issues that Notts had when coming up last season defensively, and credit to them. You know, we talked about their transfer business. Shea Dunkley and whatnot coming in, brilliant signing, really adaptable to League Two, and you got to give them credit. Bar the Crewe game, which I generally think 5 goals was quite generous on Crewe. They're keeping toe to toe with teams, and you can't say Salford's an easy game by any stretch. You know that they've been in the division for a good few seasons, been up there once or twice. No, it's a really encouraging start, and albeit you maybe say if you're drawing to 10 men, you know, is that a positive thing going into future fixtures? Is it a thing that needs addressing potentially? And it could definitely be. I think there are still a few issues that they have to address if they want to be up there, but to be fair, the fact that, you know, we can almost now, albeit it's only three games into the season, you could maybe say they'll be up there because they're consistent, and I think that's the thing that you need in this division more than anything.
Yeah, I can't really argue too much with that. I think at this stage, I mean, it's obviously still way too early to predict what will happen, but you can start to maybe. I feel already can maybe start to think about, right, okay, who we think might be up there, and it feels weird to say after 3 games, but but that's just what I generally think. I mean, I'm going off stats alone. It's probably not the best thing. I'll be honest. I didn't really do much prep for this. I quickly watched Alex. I was running all the time, but it did look like Chesterfield had the chances. Looked like the better team, but I think they'll be kicking themselves for the fact that they've thrown it away. They've thrown away what would have been a really good 3 points in the last few minutes. I'm just going off Salford's disciplinary record. Just quickly touch on that just before we move on. We know that they've had they had a bit of a problem last year, especially when Carl Robinson's come in. I've noticed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yellow cards, and then obviously Curtis Tilt got a second. I'll come back to you. Is the discipline, is it becoming a bit more of a problem? Because I feel like there's been a trend from I saw something similar to this last year with Salford.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
From last season, because I think when you're low in confidence, like we were for a large part of last season, you don't back yourself to go and win those 50-50, so you just do it a bit too aggressively. And then, because there could have been a couple of threads, to be fair, because Luke Garber probably should have got booked and then did a tackle which got him booked. And my instant reaction when he made the second tackle was, oh, he's off there because he should have got booked before. And I just expected him to. So he could have been sent off, but we just need to get that confidence back more and back ourselves a little bit more. Yeah,
of course. I don't think there's really too much more to add to that. I think if you're Chesterfield, I think you're slightly disappointed. But I think if you're Salford, I mean, you can never complain with a point away from home, especially at Chesterfield, who are predicted to do quite well this season, and they've certainly started off that way. So right, we'll move on. We'll move on to MK Dons. Why not? It's taken 4 games in all comps, but Mike Williamson finally has his first win of the season as a MK Dons gaffer with what looked to be a really comfortable victory over Carlisle. Go on then, Luke. Talk us through this one then.
This is what I've been seeing in pre-season. We've finally done it in an actual competitive match. It's so much better. I mean, the games was a bit edgy to begin with as they tried their little hoofball stuff. But eventually we sort of took over. So a couple of very strong passing moves. We created so many chances. That first goal in the end, it was a lovely through ball from Gilby, threading the needle for Nemain to run in behind. Lovely cross back to Hendry, who managed to volley it into the bottom corner. Thanks, Jack, for Hendry. He's been fantastic. He was fantastic in that game. Just the constant flick-ons, bringing teammates into play. The whole thing just looks a lot more fluid. I think that our new players are starting to understand the system a lot more. I'm actually seeing similarities to the way that we set up when we were third in League One a few seasons ago. That was with the likes of Scott Twine, Troy Parrott, Mo Weiss, all of that lot. Second goal, again, it was relatively similar move. Lovely through ball from Lemonhay Evans. Then the main, all he had to do was pass it across to Gilby, and he's got an empty net. Easy enough. Mm. And then the third goal was Tommy Lee picked up on a passing error at the back. Through ball for Tomlinson. Straight to the back post. I mean, there were moments where Carlisle maybe could have come back into it. I think they had a good sort of 10, 20 minute spell in the second half where they woke up, but they can't cross. There's no other way of putting that. They had a lot of chances where they tried to cut it back to the penalty spot, and there was just no one there. I think they had one sort of key chance that I think they hit towards the bottom corner, but Tom McGill saved it easily enough. So a pretty routine win, and I mean it's about time. Hopefully, it's a good platform to build off. So I'm happy. We've got a couple of our players back from injury as well, so all is good.
Yeah, so it certainly is. I've seen the goals there. For me, it looks like proper Mike Williamson ball. That one of the players I was particularly impressed with from last season was Aaron Nemain, and he played a big part in obviously the first 2 goals for Callum Hendry and Alex Gilby. Really good finish from Hendry. Was it a little back, like a little flick of the heel? It certainly looked. I could be wrong.
Well, the ball was slightly behind him, and he sort of had to get around it to volley. corner. It was very composed finish, just nice and controlled.
Yeah, it's clever from him, and just really nice passages of play for those goals as well. Of course, with Joe Tomlinson's as well, finishing to the bottom corner. I think it's probably, I mean, keeping a clean sheet as well. I think that's got to be another encouraging thing, isn't it? With few goals that you've maybe shipped. I mean, we're going. I'm also going off the Carlisle Cup game against Watford, although it's probably a bit more of a write-off because it is against half decent Championship opposition, of course. But I mean, a clean sheet must be encouraging as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think the change in personnel at the back definitely helps. We had Lawrence Maguire back from injury, which made a massive difference. Williamson then also dropped Luke Offord into defence as well, so we could start Lemonhay Evans in midfield. And that also made a key difference. You'll actually notice in the first 2 goals, Offord was actually started both moves in the build-up. And I think it's just that difference. We restricted them so much. And like I said, they had a couple of half chances, nothing too major. And like I said, it's first clean sheet on the board, and that's great for confidence, if anything.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just important just to get that first win in the belt. It's taken a little bit of time, maybe longer than maybe what you maybe have thought, but as long as you get it pretty quick enough, that's the main thing. Keiron, we'll touch on Carlisle. It's been quite a bit of talk at the minute around them. I mean, they beat Barrow last week, a good win for a local Cumbrian derby. But you look at the other 2 games, they've obviously shipped 3-0 to MK Dons, which is no shame because MK Dons right up there for one of the favourites. But of course, losing 4-1 at Gills as well. And notice some of the, most of the comments actually from their fan base maybe suggesting that the time for Paul Simpson as gaffer might be coming to an end. What do you feel about that? I just feel that I think that's a sort of a bit of a hangover from last year, but I think there's only so much you could take from that, as well as maybe live off the promotion from a couple of years ago. I know it sounds a little bit, but it's certainly looking like that their fans are starting to turn on Paul Simpson, which is a shame because he's done a real good job there, and for the fans he's been well liked. What you maybe thought about the whole situation now at the minute?
I mean, it's difficult to kind of break that habit, I suppose, of not being potentially competitive and whatnot and not getting results. You know, they didn't have a good season in League One by any stretch of the imagination last season, and to break that habit and to build that confidence back, I'd imagine will take time. You know, it's not like League 2 and League 1 are worlds apart in terms of quality. You know, these teams that we have in this division are more than capable of beating teams that have come down. So, yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, it depends how far you want to look. Do you want to look at Paul Simpson's promotion with Carlisle and, you know, the good stuff he was able to build off of that? Or do you be more recent and potentially more relevant to Carlisle's situation, and you look at last season and you look at these opening 3 league games? It's not convincing, but the thing that I question is, let's say they get rid of Paul Simpson 2 games down the line. Let's say not too much improves, and they eventually pull the trigger on him. Are they going to be able to? Because you'd imagine that Paul Simpson's style of football, it suits League 2, right? It's very physically orientated, long balls, all that kind of stuff. Do you associate League 2 with any kind of football? It's that. Is there going to be a manager that's going to be able to get the best out of those players that I don't think suit that style of football? Is there someone out there that can get the best out of that group and get that team firing again? Because they've got the quality. There's no doubt about it. You look at that team on paper, it should be up there competing for promotion, but something isn't working. And I think management is such an unforgiving job. You know, it's such a harsh thing to be in. So, unless it improves, which I don't know whether it will, to be honest with you. I'm not convinced by them at all. I wouldn't be surprised if they do eventually pull the trigger. You know, it says a lot when the Carlisle fans who have backed him for so long, even when they were doing poorly in League One, now they're starting to turn on them, which is never a promising sign.
I think with Carlisle, I think we're getting to a point, like I said, that I think their fans are starting to see that the writing is starting to appear on the wall, and that's never really a good thing. If I'm going to be honest, not taking anything away from what Paul Simpson has done with Carlisle, because on the whole, he's done a terrific job. And he's quite rightly well loved by them. But there's always been something about him that's rubbed off the wrong way for me. There's always been like that. And I can't really pinpoint what. As weird as it may be saying, I might get a little bit of backlash from this. But I don't know. I don't know. We all saw them in January with the fact that I think they were pretty much preparing for League Two. Go in League One last season, no doubt that, I'll be honest, they stank the place out. They absolutely stank League One out last year. I think promotion came way too early for them. As real good as the season that they've had, getting through with the playoffs, they were nowhere near League One quality, and it really showed that, they got hammered by quite a few teams last year, and they were making silly mistakes from goalkeepers to the back line. You had so many goalkeepers playing last year with Holy's like Anderson, and then obviously Harry Lewis. I honestly, it would not surprise me if they pull the plug. I think as well as Carlisle have maybe done under him, I do think we're getting to a point. Has he maybe taken them as far as he could? I personally think we're getting to that point. But it's always going to be difficult away at MK Dons as well. Who are trying to find their feet, and looks like they now have found their feet after yesterday. So a real good win for them. We'll move on. We'll head to Bradford next. They've had a real good start to the season, actually. Two wins and a draw to kick things off. Another win yesterday against Bromley, who have started really well. 2 wins from their opening 2. But Jake, we'll come to you. I've got to say, Bradford has started strong, but I've got to say, what's a save from Ashley Charles?
Yeah, it's really bizarre because the referee waited so long to actually give the penalty. He let the whole move play out. So if Bradford scored from that, would he have actually sent him off? Because it doesn't look like he would have. But Bradford will be disappointed that it's not 3 wins from 3 with the goal that wasn't a goal last week. So it's a really good start from them. Obviously, Bromley's first defeat, which would be interesting to see how they bounce back, especially with Crewe next week. But a really good performance by Bradford, and they're really starting to look like something this season. Yeah,
it looks like they've started to get all the right notes. It's all sort of clicking into place. It doesn't look like they've done too much with their transfer business, but I think actually you look at it, Bradford came really close to the playoffs last year, as much I was really unconvinced in them for a large part of the season. We said it numerous times. We know what sort of manager Graham Alexander is and how he sets his teams up. And early days, granted, but we're starting to really see it. We said it. MK just didn't look like a fit for him at all. I honestly believe that Bradford do perfect with the players that they already had, as well as getting it. It's more of adding some more quality, and I think they might do 1 or 2 more before the transfer window ends. Next week. Goals from, Andy Cook again's there. Bobby Poynton is a player I really love. He looks to be, he's going to be some player in the future. But Luke, Bromley, they've started off well. I think, would you maybe say that maybe the pressure maybe somewhere like Valley Parade at Bradford's ground maybe played its toll? And I think you've always got a bit of a upfield struggle once you go down to 10 men, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's hard to criticize them too much after that point because it was so early in the game as well. What 8 minutes in, something like that. To have to play that long against a side that's started well. Bromley have also started well, but Bradford are used to this level. Bromley aren't, and they did well to get that sort of consolation goal. And I don't think a loss like that will phase them too much, to be honest. I think we will see a bit of a bounce from them. Obviously they're going to have to change their starting lineup a little bit because, can't play a guy that's got a red card. But aside from that, I would expect them to bounce back with another good performance. I don't know who they've got next, but I think there's still more to come from them at the minute. I don't think this will bother them too much.
Their next league game, I've just got it up here. Their next league game, they're at home to Crewe. So it's a great opportunity. Actually, there's a great opportunity there to put some points with the way that Crewe started. But we'll get on to them. I've noticed Bromley's goal as well. Of course, it's come from a free kick, and headed in by the old man. That is Byron Webster, proper professional at 37 years of age. It's also worth pointing out about Richie Smallwood's penalty as well. He did miss one at Blundell Park a couple of weeks ago. In normal time, I should add. He did score in the shootout, but he cannoned it off the bar to keep things level, and we scored about 2 minutes later. But yeah, I mean, we play Bradford next week, and it's not the ideal opponent actually, with the way they started and the fact that our record against Bradford is abysmal. To be quite frank, I'm not looking forward to that, but it's a good win for Bradford by all accounts. But yeah, I do feel like it's a little bit of a reality check for Bromley. A little bit, they can be sort of proud with how they start the season, but yeah, I mean, just looking at it, it did look like Bradford did deserve to win. It was always going to be a struggle once they had down to 10 there, but like I said, brilliant save from Charles as well. I mean, it's a goalkeeper. If it's a goalkeeper, it's a fantastic save. Right off the bar, it's unbelievable. We'll do one more game before we head into the ad break. We'll go to Keiron with Newport County. Another win yesterday against Accrington Stanley, carrying on from a really good win against Doncaster last week after a late defeat on the opening day. Back-to-back wins, something you've not really seen for a while. How do you think about this one then?
No, it was to be fair, we won by the same margin that we beat Doncaster, but I did not think we were anywhere near as convincing, especially in the first half. But the thing that I've noticed in these past two games is that we've started off really well. Those opening 10-15 minutes, we apply the pressure and see if we can, get something early while potentially the opposition don't quite prepare for it. And we were able to get it throughout the 12th minute. I've given quite a lot of praise to Anthony Glennon over the past two games, just out of what he's been able to produce. And Google and ThoughtMob says this is an own goal by Seb Quirk, but I'm convinced that it would have been on target, and this should be Shane McLaughlin's goal. He's dragged it out the left side, Anthony Glennon. He's put a really nice ball into the mixer, and it's just landed to Shane McLaughlin really nicely, and he's like half volleyed it, and it's just rolled across to the bottom corner. But Seb Quirk, rightly so, being a defender, you're of course going to try and put your body on the line to block it. But it's kind of just rolled. It's hit his leg and just ever so slowly rolled into the net. Keeper just kind of stares at it as it goes in. So I wasn't, I didn't actually expect it to come that early because we didn't produce too much beforehand. It was just a little bit of comfortable possession just to settle ourselves into the game. But from there, I thought Accrington were really unlucky to not be leading, especially when they scored off of Sean Wally. It was about 40 minutes into the game or so. He's done really well off of a lofted through pass, but I think it was Jimmy Knowles, if I'm not mistaken, the one that provided the pass. He's taken a really nice touch, and he's almost kind of fainted past Kieran Brennan. He's just levered it into the near post top corner. So, other than that, I thought they had plenty of chances. They had one where I don't remember who it was, but he's taken a shot from about 25, 30 yards out, and Nick Townsend had to put off a remarkable save. So I wasn't very convinced. We went into the break 1-1, and I said it last week when we played Doncaster. We need to come out strong and actually have a good intent, especially given the fact that we were at home. And quite conveniently so, it ended up happening off of someone I'm going to probably credit way too much on this podcast, but he deserves it. Bobby Camway, he's bloody unreal. He's done really well cutting in off the left side, and I actually believe it's Sean Wally who was his marker, and he's fouled him inside the box. It's a clear-cut Stonewall penalty. Second one of the season, Courtney Baker-Richardson converts it in the bottom right. So now we're 2-1 up, and we're doing a little bit more of the stereotypical League Two, have it around the middle of the park and win aerial duels kind of thing. Albeit, I feel we won about 3 of them the entire game. But it was nicely closed off around 70 minutes in. It's been credited by the EFL as an unstoppable goal and whatnot. But I don't think the Accrington defence did well enough to close it down. Albeit, Aaron Wildig takes a lovely touch onto it and kind of just volleys it far post. It's a lovely finish, but I don't think it's defended quite as well as it should be. But albeit, I'm not going to complain. You know, I think that the important thing is we didn't play overly well. We didn't play fantastically, but we won again. And I think that's the really nice thing about it, that we can win games in circumstances where, you know, it's really weird that I'm talking about not playing well against Accrington, but we played really well against Doncaster. Getting those kind of results, I think, are the things that we need to build on. And we've got Morecambe away now next week. And of course, we started off our away campaign, if you want to put it that way, in quite a sour taste. But I think it's a really nice platform to build on. 2 3-1 wins at home, one very convincing performance, another one that maybe isn't quite as convincing, but again, it's clinical. Google says we've scored 3 and we've had 2 shots on target, so that kind of tells you all you need to know about it. And what can I say, guys? Nelson Jardim's football has taken us up to League One. No doubt, it's happening. You heard it there first.
Bit early to call, I'll be honest, but you know, after beating Accrington, that's not at the break. But no, you did mention a couple of players there. Bobby Cameron looks like a really tidy player. I've seen a couple of highlights of him already. It looks like, and like you mentioned, you've given high praise to Anthony Glenn. And I've always been adamant as a player there, in the right system, he's a very good wing back for this level. He probably can play League One as much as he has his defensive frailties, but that's not really his sort of game. We know that he's a really good crosser of the ball. You know, he's really good set piece taker. I've always thought Newport suited him as a club, and it's good to see that, you know, he started off pretty well. Just quickly before we just go to a break, Jake, just a quick one on Accrington Stanley. They've conceded quite a few goals already this season. 4 to Doncaster, 3 to Harrogate, another 3 to Newport, and if we're going off the Carlisle Cup, another 3 to Tranmere. Yeah, they've certainly got some issues at the back, haven't they, at the minute?
Yeah, huge issues. Obviously, going forward, they look absolutely fine, but they're not. Every time someone goes forward, it feels like they score. If they're gonna, they've had a lot of turnover, so I do think they'll be down there. And if they don't stop conceding, then they probably will be. And it could be a long season for them, but they just need to. Once they get a clean sheet, it'll be interesting to see how they build upon that. If they go straight back to conceding loads, or they just keep going.
Yeah, of course. There's not really too much more to add. I mean, it's not for the lack of. I mean, the scoring goals. I mean, they got one against Donny. They get one at Newport, and they score 3 against Harrogate. So it's clear they can score goals, but you know, conceding goals, the amount of goals that they're doing every week is not a great habit to be in, and that's something that they've got to really address quick. Because there's only so long you can do it before. Next thing you know, you're right bang in trouble. But we say this a lot, but it's still 3 games in. It's still early days, but there's certainly quite a bit of cause for concern there already, truth be told. But we'll move on. But before we do, we'll head into a quick break. We'll cover the rest of the games, in which, I'll be honest, not much more has happened. I mean, the rest look boring, but we'll get to that shortly. We'll see you in a moment. And we're back for the second part of Thank you if you're still with us. So we'll head into the next game. We'll touch on Doncaster. I think it was important that they needed a response after Newport last week, and they certainly got that. A 1-0 win against Morecambe. The goal scorer is someone that I know very well in Harry Clifton, moving over to Doncaster this summer. I'll be honest, it still feels weird seeing him in a Donny shirt. It just feels it feels so wrong. You know, coming through our academy, you know, Grimsby lad as he is, but I'm pleased for him. It was his first Rovers goal. It looked like an absolute cock up from their keeper for it. But looking at it, I mean, Donny. It's saying on flash that Donny didn't have a shot on target. I know. I think I remember Jordan Gibson hitting the bar. But I mean, Morecambe had that chat. But again, it's another defeat for Morecambe. I mean, it's probably interesting to say because they've come up against some decent teams already. But Luke, what have you made? What have you made of them so far? I mean, it's not. I mean, we've had 3 games, 4 games, of course, if you count in the cup as well. Haven't scored a goal yet. I mean, I'm not sure about you, but I'm starting to fear for them already.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I said a couple of weeks ago, I'm not convinced by them, and we're a couple of games later, I'm still not convinced by them. Like, they're not showing us anything to suggest that they're actually gonna take someone on. I mean, 1-0 against Doncaster isn't too bad. That's respectable. I'd criticise Doncaster for not running away with it, to be honest. But at the same time, it could be a lot worse in that specific result. But in the grand scheme of things, you have to start picking up points eventually. The transfer window closes in a week, just under. They're going to be stuck with most of this squad now for at least half a season. If they don't start picking up points, they're going to leave themselves with a huge mountain to climb, and that's going to be way, way, way too much. I mean, I don't know who they've got in the next couple of fixtures, but the points have to start coming, and they have to start coming soon.
They do, yeah. And you mentioned the transfers bit as well. I'm not sure if they probably do, if they do anymore. I mean, I think they clearly need to. I think one thing I did see, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're trying to get a fee from, is it JJ McKiernan that they sold to Lincoln instead of going to a sort of like a tribunal in a way, so they can get some more money to spend in the last few days of the transfer window. I think that's something I saw, but I'm not sure if that depends on that. But it's certainly not a good. I mean, I did bring in, is it Rhys Williams in there the other week? Who's obviously got Premier League and Championship experience. But I mean, I think George Ray's injured as well, which is not. But I've always been not convinced with their transfer business at all. And I go on about how much I rate Derek Adams as a manager, as much I think he's a bit of a wanker. But I go on about him. I'm just not sure about this current crop of players, what they've got at the minute. If I'm going to be perfectly honest. But Keiron, we'll touch on Doncaster. They obviously lost to you lot last week, Newport. An instant response for them, although it's gifted. And looking at it could have easily been 3 with Gibson hitting the bar, and there was a chance for him. I think sharp pass to Ironside, and which somehow didn't go in. But it could have been more. So how important was getting back at track for Doncaster, and also how did they really do last week against you lot?
Yeah, it's in terms of last week. I thought they were really unconvincing. You can talk to any Doncaster fan; they'll say exactly the same thing. You can even listen to Grant McCann's interview, and he'll say the same thing. They just didn't look really up to the races that first half, where we played them relatively even. I felt we were quite unlucky to not be leading at half time, and then we just steamrolled them in the second half, and we never really gave them any a chance. The reality is, every team has hiccups and has those kind of defeats every now and again. Like last season when Stockport won, 12 in a row, whatever the bloody hell it was, the stupid amount. We were the ones that beat them, and Doncaster were on a really long unbeaten run before playing us. We beat them. It's going to happen where top teams don't show up on certain days. The important thing is, and I think Grant McCann did say it, is that he'll be, addressing what went wrong, seeing what he can tweak within training, and then he'll look to bounce back in the next game. And yeah, I think 1-0 is, it's quite harsh on Doncaster. I watched the highlights, and you can easily say on a different day this goes in, on a different day this goes in, and whatnot. But no, you gotta give them the credit for immediately bouncing back after what was a relatively harsh and heavy defeat. It's the thing that a lot of teams that sometimes when they are promotion favourites, they don't tend to do. They'll lose, and they'll lack that confidence to immediately bounce back. But Doncaster, you got to give them the credit, albeit it's not by much. They did. They got the job done, and hopefully, for their sakes, of course, they can build on it.
Yeah, it's neither that or it's just something about Rodney Parade, in which I just think it's out at this stage. But no, it was important for them, I think, just to get back on track after that little hiccup last week. They've got a trip to Everton on Tuesday in the Carabao Cup. Lucky buggers. Yeah, they enjoy it.
Love it. Yeah, I hope they really, really enjoy it. That's the one game that if I could pick any team this season to draw in a cup competition, Everton away.
We were drawn out first. We were drawn out first against Sheffield Wednesday, and then they came out right after Sheffield Wednesday.
No,
I mean, just to play Everton at all, I think would have been great. But oh well, I'm not complaining with Sheffield Wednesday. It'd be a nice quiet night at Blundell Park on Tuesday. Said no one, especially not Humberside Police or Yorkshire Police for that matter. But yeah, that's that one. Good win for Donnies, which is what they needed. We'll quickly whiz through the other ones. Barrow, big win against Port Vale. Didn't see this one coming, I'll be honest. Even more so as I put Port Vale to win in my ACCA, in which I'll be, you could probably tell, not best pleased with that. But there were some nice finishes from Barrow. Emil Aqua's goal, the second one in particular, was really impressive right in the top corner. I mean, Kieran Spence on the score sheet again. I'm a big fan of his. Don Telford on the score sheet for what seems to be the first time, if ever known. And Jed Garner as well for their first. Jake, big win for Barrow. How big of a win is that early doors with, Port Vale? They've kept 2 clean sheets, haven't they? Scoring 4-0 against Port Vale, a side that's predicted to do pretty well this year. How big of a result is that early doors?
Yeah, it's a huge result because obviously Port Vale are heavily favoured to win the league. And after last week's disappointment against Carlisle, where they probably felt it was a foul in the build-up, which didn't look like it, but to bounce back and to have such a good start because they've gone to 4th. Obviously, it's after 3 games, but losing Pete Wild and a number of key players in the summer was big for them. And they've replaced them a lot. Well, they've replaced them very well, clearly, with Stephen Clements and had a lot of changes in the summer. So to have a result like this, on top of beating Crewe on the opening day, and then to beat Port Vale in this matter is just so important for them.
Yeah, I'm going to say this quite quietly, but I've been pleasantly surprised with Barrow so far. I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't think they'd be anywhere near as what they have been for the last few years under Pete Wild, obviously with Stephen Clements coming in. But, 2 wins from their first 3. Had a goal ruled out, very nearly snatched a point against Carlisle last week, which would have been even better if they did that. But Luke, Jake mentioned that Port Vale one of the favourites. I think you'd probably like to disagree, but Port Vale, a win and a draw, obviously to start with against. The win coming against Salford and the draw coming up against Tranmere, who look very good defensively themselves, but. It's early. Is it too early to maybe call this a blip? Or I don't know, to be honest. I don't really know what you can call it, but I don't know. What have you made of that?
Attacking wise, I'm not too concerned. I think they did have a couple of big chances in that game that I think on another day they'd probably score. I think keepers pulled out a couple of decent saves as well. But defensive frailties, You watch the tracking of their defenders; it's non-existent for pretty much all of those goals. It's just how quickly they sort of fell apart. And it was all in the second half as well. It's just one big sort of mental collapse, I suppose, which has to be a concern. Like I said, obviously they've got I hyped up both of their goalkeepers for pretty much all of pre-season, but the defence in front of them, it's not looking great.
No.
Hopefully for them it is just a blip, but they're gonna have to be a lot sharper than that. You've got to be more urgent, stopping balls into the box, balls in behind. You have to know where your marker is. It's the basics. Come on now. If you want to compete at the top, you've got to do better than that.
Yeah, and I think defensive drills might be on Darren Moore's agenda this week. It was just so easy. They got their first Barrow, and then it's just sort of looked like that Port Vale sort of fell apart, carved apart. Defensively, I'd be pretty annoyed if I was a Port Vale fan in it, as much as some of the goals that Barrow scored were pretty good. There was some nice goals in there, some nice finishes, but certainly some work to do on the defensive side after that one. I mean, after 2 clean sheets as well. Yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't see this one coming. I'll be completely honest. So that's that one. Wimbledon 1-0 winners against Cheltenham. We all know that Cheltenham have been quite fun to watch so far. They've won 3-2, they've lost 3-2, and now they've lost 1-0. Didn't score. Big win for Wimbledon, has to say then, Keiron.
Yeah, it's nice to see that they're not only have they won, but they've kept that clean sheet, and it's something that they struggled with last season. Was being defensively stable in games. Sometimes they'd make errors and let things slip. Albeit, I think Cheltenham are a really positive offensive side. I think they are good on the ball. They're good at driving it forward, and they had a few chances, I do suppose, to get a result and get a point at home. But no, I thought Wimbledon, for the most part, I thought they controlled possession really well, which when you're doing that away from home, it's definitely promising. They probably developed a lot more chances in my eyes than Cheltenham did, albeit they were slower builded, and you maybe don't notice them if you're watching highlights. But no, I thought that they had some really positive play and some really encouraging signs. And we've talked a lot about results potentially being platforms to build on, but I think that one is definitely one that you can definitely look to maybe improve on finishing wise. Like I said, I think they had more chances during that game to increase their lead more. If I'm not mistaken, it was Jack Payne who scored around the 70th minute, but I thought they had more chances during that. So I think there's things to improve, definitely, but I think it's a very solid and a very stable result that they can build on.
Yeah, it was Joe Pigott for their goal scorer. For the
Joe Pigott. Jack Payne played for
Colchester.
Yeah, how have I got that mixed up? I don't know.
I have no idea there. But no, it was a lovely figure. It was a lovely finish from Pigott. I have to be careful there. That sounded way too dodgy. But Jake, Cheltenham. I mean, late win against Newport, a late loss against Grimsby, and now this one against Wimbledon. It didn't seem like much in the game, but yeah, what have you made to them so far, early doors?
Yeah, they've certainly been an exciting team to watch. So to have a little bit of a less exciting game would have been strange for them, but they've shown they can score goals. Defensively, they don't look that great, so they probably need a couple more additions. Obviously, they got Sam Stubbs on loan from Bradford, which I think will be a really good signing for them if they can keep him fit. So I'm not majorly worried. I think they're just going to have a steady season, which would probably be quite good for them.
Yeah, I like the signing of Stubbs, it has to be said. Yeah, I personally agree. I'll be honest, when we played them last week, I didn't think too much of them early doors to suggest that they'll be up there. You can see that they've got goals in them, but they also can concede quite a few. But yeah, I think they'll be all right. They don't. I'll be honest, I don't really see anything that special, but there's certainly some good players there, and we all know. I mean, Keiron will certainly know how good of a manager Mike Flynn is. It's just whether he can find that a sort of consistent year of maybe in a job after his last couple with Swindon and Walsall. It's not past couple of jobs haven't really been the best for him, but it's sort of this one. It feels like it's do or die in a certain sense. I've got a feeling with that, but I'm aware that he wasn't best pleased with the first half performance. I'll be honest, it didn't look like a great game on paper either. But a good win for AFC Wimbledon away from home, winning 1-0. Can't really complain. Big win for Harrogate yesterday at Colchester. The goal was a bit scrappy. I think if you're Colchester, you're annoyed. It come from a defensive cock up back with the keeper and Sam Following with another goal. Big win for Harrogate, wasn't it, Luke?
Yeah, absolutely. This was a result I certainly wasn't really expecting at all, to be honest. I thought Colchester were going to run away with this one, nice easy win. How wrong was I? I think this is a very, very good result for Harrogate. I'll be honest, I haven't seen much of this game, but I think the fact that they're able to pull off a win against a side that, again, I do think is going to be up there in some capacity. I think that you have to give them credit for that. And 4 points? So win, a loss, and a draw. It's solid start overall, middle of the pack. I mean, I think they can be pretty happy with that so far.
Yeah, and I think the highlights didn't really suggest a lot, but I'm just looking through there's only so much you could talk with stats, but 66% possession, and Colchester had 26 shots to Harrogate's 9. They had 12. They had 9 on target. Sorry. It looks like that Colchester did pretty much everything but score yesterday at Keiron. Yeah, how annoyed would they sort of be that the fact that the goal that they've conceded was on their part, really?
Yeah, I'll tell you the weird thing that I've noticed with Harrogate. They're scoring the most League Two goals to ever come out of League Two. They had last week against Accrington with the fucking head tennis, and now they've got
right there, goal of the season.
Yeah, lit goal of the season, most League Two goal to ever be scored in League Two, and then you've got that one from a defensive error, which that's schoolboy stuff. I watched the highlights earlier, and it's something that you wouldn't really expect professionals to make. But albeit I didn't watch the entire game, but I'm also looking at the stats, and it does look like Harrogate did potentially ride their luck a little bit. There's a lot of chances, again, on paper. I've not seen them. They could all be from 40 yards out for all we know, but it does look like they did potentially ride their luck. They weren't on the ball as much, and it maybe suggests that they did sit back and potentially play for a lovely 0-0 that we all love watching. But I suppose you got to give them credit, albeit yes, it was from Colchester defensive error, and they will be kicking themselves over it because it's something that is easily preventable. But again, the Harrogate player had to be there to score it. He had to be there to convert it. And as much as it will be, again, really frustrating to Colchester, because on paper it looks like that, like you said, they did everything but score. It just seems to be one of those games for them, and it looks convincing enough again on paper on the lovely Google here to where if they can just find that finishing touch, there's no reason why they won't be up there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, if you're Harrogate, it's a great win away from home. It did sort of look like that they sort of did play for a point, but like I said, Sam Folland's got to be there to score it, even though it was an absolute cock up on Colchester's behalf. But they'll be disappointed that they've not picked up more than probably, by looking at it, what their football deserves. So, but no, good win away from home for Harrogate, and I just love the goals they're scoring at the minute. They're just the ultimate Sunday league goals, in which they're scoring, in which I'm a massive fan of, by the way. We've got 3 games left, but we'll whiz through these very quickly. Tranmere, 1-0 win against Walsall, their first win of the season. Another clean sheet for Tranmere. A goal for Amari Patrick, who had probably could have had one at the end. There was a missed penalty in there as well from Jamil Matt before the Patrick goal. So, Jake, win for Tranmere. Another clean sheet, their first win of the season. Certainly look well drilled, don't they?
Yeah, something you'd expect from a Nigel inside to be tough to break down and just really defensively solid and have a goal in them. So, first home win, first win, still yet to concede. Plenty of positives for them. Yeah,
exactly. Probably could have been a couple more, but I think Luke, we'll just quickly come to you on Walsall. They had a penalty. Jamil Matt, his penalty was saved by Luke McGee in the Tranmere goal. It's sort of, I mean, looking at it, it did look like that Walsall had more of the chances. Maybe someone had the better of it. I mean, in fact, no, they both had one shot. I'll tell you, look at it. But yeah, how frustrating maybe would that be quite early on to, I say, maybe set the tone and for Tranmere to score not so long after.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not ideal, isn't it? It's one of those things where it's like, that goes wrong. It's like, oh, it's going to be one of them days. And maybe that did play against them mentally. I don't know. But equally at the same time, I think Tranmere are a very good side. The win had been coming. It was just who it was going to be against, I think, rather than, I think it was always going to happen eventually. I think 1-0 against Tranmere isn't awful. Perhaps a little concerning that they haven't been able to score against them, as we have obviously mentioned in the past. Sort of Walsall, toothless up top, whatever. They've actually done all right so far, but obviously they've got a lot of other teams yet to face. I think overall they'll be happy with their start, but it'll depend. Next couple of games, I know we've got them coming up soon as well, so it'll be interesting to see how they break down our defence actually.
We did quickly look at the obviously Walsall's potential frailties with goal scoring. 2 wins from their first 2. 1-0 win against Walsall, against Morecambe, sorry, and they're out 4-0 at Swindon last week. But we'll quickly get to them in a minute. I think it's also a sense of Tranmere's defence looks well solid. 3 clean sheets in a row. There's certainly that element to it. But yeah, I think it's another one. I think he may be frustrated for the fact that Matt hasn't scored that pen, but it was a good save from McGee anyway to prevent that. We'll just quickly touch on the 2 0-0s. We'll start with Fleetwood Gillingham. Looks like Fleetwood had the better of this game. They had a goal ruled out for offside, but I think if you're Gillingham, Keiron, I think you're probably looking at it as a really good point on the road.
Yeah. Again, I'd be lying if I said I was able to watch a game because 3 p.m. Saturday, whatnot. But no, Fleetwood surprised me this game. I've been really impressed by Gillingham in the opening few games, especially up front. I thought they've done everything right defensively that they potentially wouldn't have done last season. But that result almost felt like old habits of Gillingham. That they're not pressing the ball, they're not trying to get the ball in advanced areas, and maybe you say they played for a 0-0 on the road. As Fleetwood, I don't think you'll see many teams go there either and get a positive result out of it. But again, by the looks of things, it does look like, albeit you maybe say Fleetwood didn't take the chances that they were able to produce. But yeah, I think it is all in all a good point on the road for Gillingham.
Yeah, and I certainly seen that. Fleetwood have surprised me early doors with how well they've started. I thought they were quite unlucky against Notts last week, and I'll be honest, like I said a couple of weeks ago, I didn't think there was much in the game against us. I think we sort of matched them, but they nicked that goal and we didn't. Just a quick one on Fleetwood, actually, Jake. Just before we just move on to our last game, which we'll zoom past because, quite frankly, it was a ball fest. It looks like Jake Young is set to sign for him. It was confirmed by Crewe Alexandra, the Bradford boss, that they had accepted an offer from a League Two club for the services of Jake. It's now up to him. It's been reported that Fleetwood are that club this morning. If they get that over the line, I think they need a striker. But how potential of a game changer could this be?
That's a huge signing for them. Obviously, Jake Young, first half of last season, was one of the best players in the division. And I think anyone would have really had him in January. So, obviously, he's gone back to Bradford, and for whatever reason, it's just not worked out. Obviously, he's been injured quite a bit, but not even been involved at the start of the season seems a bit crazy. So, to go to Fleetwood will be a huge signing for them and could push them up, maybe even pushing for playoffs.
Yeah, perhaps as well. It's just for one reason or another, it's just not worked out at Bradford, but we know what he can do at this level. Look at his goal scoring form at Swindon. His partnership with Dan Kemp was scary, to be quite frank. I think that'll be a terrific signing if that comes off. But a point piece, I think Gillingham will probably be the happier of the two, if I'm going to be honest. The last game, Crewe Swindon. I'll be honest, I watched this one. I don't know why. There were so many other games for me to watch, but I thought I'd watch this one because there's two sides that sort of need to get going, sort of need that win. And I'll be honest, I turned it off after 60 minutes. It was boring. But if there was going to be any sort of a winner, it was going to be Swindon. They had the better chance. They had a goal disallowed. They had a couple of close efforts like fizzed across and just missed that final touch. But I'll be honest, I was concerned for Crewe. from what I saw from that. Luke, how concerned are you for Crewe at the minute? We all know the home form has not been great dating back to last season. It sort of seemed like a big game early on after the way they crumbled to Chesterfield last week. But from looking at it, I saw nothing in that to really stand out that Crewe could do something this year. In fact, I think worse than that. I think they looked alarmingly something.
I have been roasting them all summer for getting rid of their best players to divisional rivals. I've also been roasting them all summer for signing Philip Marshall and sticking him in goal. I'm sorry, but I'm right on both things. I'm totally right on both things. I had them down in 18th for my prediction, and I've not seen anything from them that's convinced me at all that they're a decent side. I mean, Swindon aren't much better because, all you had to do was get one on target and it probably goes in. But I think this was a game between two poor sides for me. But I am particularly worried for Crewe. I don't know, how they're going to keep teams out. I don't know how they're going to score many goals either. To be honest, I'm still just in disbelief that there are two sides in Crewe and Accrington that saw our goalkeeping situation last season and thought, you know what, I'll have a bit of that. I don't know what they're doing. They are in trouble right now.
Yeah, I do look at their next game. They've got Bromley away. It's probably not the most ideal game when you've got Bromley, who are desperate for a response after losing at Bradford yesterday. And me and Jake had a good discussion about it with Lee Bell. If the pressure is starting to maybe get to him a little bit, is the pressure maybe on him? I personally think it is. I think, there's something that has to be done because this is quite alarming. Some of this form, especially at home, where performances have been dire. I think it's safe to say. Okay, just really quickly on Swindon. We all know that they had a terrible time last week against Walsall. It did look like they had the better of the chances at Gresty Road this weekend, but does it maybe feel like a sense of maybe a missed opportunity, perhaps?
I feel so, yeah. I felt that, in my eyes, I'm pretty sure I put this down as a 0-0. I felt this was the most predictable result in the entire division, just because, of course, they're both coming off of heavy defeats, and I was in the thought process that neither of them would want to lose, and they'd potentially, take off the back burners when it comes to attacking. But I think it is, albeit a missed opportunity for Swindon. I watched I don't know why I watched the highlights, to be fully honest. Even when I got home,
not the full game. It's not quite 2/4 of the game, though.
Yeah,
3/3 of the game, even.
Yeah, I don't know why I watched the highlights, but from what I saw, it looked. Would it be too generous to say positive for Swindon? Potentially, but there's definitely things there that can be fine-tuned, and if the final touch can be found, they would have won that game. But I don't think you can really say to them either that they deserve too much. Because you're playing against Crewe, they were sat back all game from what I saw. But so was Swindon, other than on maybe 4 occasions. And, if you're not taking those chances, one of them looked like it was almost set up on a silver platter to be tucked away. I can't quite remember who did quite reach to it, but I'm convinced I could have scored it, kind of thing. But I suppose it's something that maybe both teams can build on, that clean sheet, but it just doesn't look good for either of them, let's be fair.
No, and I can pretty much agree for what you've been saying. It honestly did look like two poor teams. And I've seen quite a fair bit that I don't think either team will do that well this year. If I'm going to be honest, as much as we maybe praised what maybe Swindon have done in the transfer market, I'm just not sure on a few things. But I think there's certainly a little bit more encouragement than what they obviously. I mean, it could have been any worse than last week, that's for sure. But there's certainly some bits there. I mean, they should have scored that chance that you mentioned. I think it was in the first half. I just remember it was a Harry Smith cross, I think it was. And I don't know how no one's got a toe on that. If I'm going to be honest, but no, Crewe didn't really offer anything. They had that one chance. I think Sam Long in the second half. He didn't even hit the target. I'll be honest, there's a lot of concerning signs for Crewe at the minute. It certainly looked better. I mean, again, couldn't have been any worse than what they did against Chesterfield last week. But yeah, I do sense that this week's probably big in the transfer market. I'm not sure what business they need to do, what they can do. But they've got a huge game against Bromley. I feel that already that's a huge game for Crewe in the grand scheme of things because of how slow they started. I mean, they've yet to pick up a point this season. Yet to score a goal. Yeah. They've yet to score a goal either. Same with Morecambe as well. But yeah, I'm at the minute three games in. I'm looking at it, and there's already quite a few causes for concern there. So that's this week. That's everyone, I believe. I should probably check if I've not missed one. There's not. I mean, I just went on quite a bit at the beginning. We were over on a little bit, but I don't really care. I needed to get all that off my chest because I've held it in for the best part of a few days. I mean, some of my mates like talking to a brick wall. But no, that's the end for this week. It's great to see you guys again, back with a full cast. Anything else that any of you want to add before we do go?
Count Diego now. That is all.
Brilliant.
Well, no,
Until next week.
we'll pretend we didn't hear that, but follow us on all our socials. Tell us what you thought of the episode, and yeah, thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, Jake, anything on your end?
No, just give us a 5-star review on Spotify, like and subscribe, and good luck everyone next week, apart from Luke, but that's fine.
I'll tell you what, it tastes one. Although you play Monday night, don't you? So stuff will be recorded on Sunday. So a bit of pre-match talk, what it could be next Sunday, in which I'm really looking forward to that. Actually, the first of our two face-offs. I mean, it probably will get heated when our respective sides face each other. But no, that's it for this week. Thank you guys for listening. If you have made it this far, make sure you go and download the podcast and wherever you get your podcast from. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, follow our pages at Fourth Tier Fever. A couple of things in the pipeline for this week. There's talk of potentially doing a transfer deadline day live stream with the League One guys, the League One Lowdown. Nothing's really come concrete for that yet, but once we do know, we'll obviously communicate it on our channels. There's a couple of things in the pipeline as well, with especially with an interview with a very special guest, but not quite over the line yet. But once we have confirmation for that, you'll obviously be the first guys to hear it, who that said person is. But thank you so much for listening again. It really do appreciate it. All your love and support. It's great, and we love doing this. But yeah, until next week, have a very good rest of your day, and we'll see you then. Until then, take care.